most terrifying stance, King Crimson. Check it out. What the hell?
Terrifying stance, King Crimson, has been a long time coming video.
Volley.
If you are an older fan of the channel, you would remember that I had a King Crimson profile pic for a very long time because, well, King Crimson is one of my favorite stands in all of Jojo for a plethora
favorite
of
stand,
reasons, but honestly, it just looks cool to me. On top of the fact the stand is super powerful and should belong in this category of the most terrifying.
Yo, these stands cool as hell, bro.
And starting off, as always, the musical references behind the stand. Surprisingly enough, here there is a lot going on here. A total of 6 references with one.
Gala, who's your favorite viewer except for me, Preaker? Oh, I can't choose one.
Correct. So going down the list, we actually start at probably the first and most obvious one, the name of the band, King Crimson. Being a progressive rock band from the late 60s, they are a band that is very influential to modern times. As they would pioneer the album cover art that a lot of artists would use today and probably influenced a lot of.
That's what I'm saying. Jojo got culture, bro. W references.
Rock. Basically the grandfathers of the music industry. Other than that, nothing really else kind of calls back into King Crimson other than namesake. But the next 3, of course, are massively important for literally everything in part 5, so here we go. The biggest one being Court of the Crimson King. This isn't really a direct reference to King Crimson or Diavolo, but more or less the group that he leads, Passione, an Italian mafia group that basically kind of controls Italy secretly in part 5, being led by Diavolo and King Crimson. Funny enough, the song itself references a lot of people in the court that more or less probably actually inspired a lot of the characters within Passione. Probably the 2 most I can probably figure out here would most likely be the jester being Risotto and one of the other few characters being maybe Bucciolati.
He looked badass. Oh my god.
But that is speculation at most. But you can see a lot of the characters in this song within Passione just a little bit if you squint. Next up being Epitaph, a song that probably inspires 2 things for Diavolo's character. One, of course, being the name of the substand Epitaph, the ability to literally see 10 seconds into the future, and second, most likely
that's such an OP ability.
Epitaph is a song about seeing the nearby doom of the future coming forward and the yearning for
10 seconds in the future.
Instead of having a good result to the issue, more or less in Diavolo's case, it's probably making the situation worse as he is now king of everything. Bonus, you could also
king
say
of
the
everything
song inspired the idea of the Requiem arrow and stuff, but that one's for a completely different video, so I'm not really going to cover it here. Next, 21st Century Schizoid Man. Probably one of the most well-known references here, thank you Kanye, is a literal song about a man with schizophrenia living in the 21st century. Literally taken at face value by Iraqi, Doppio literally has
King Crimson's your favorite stand?
Literally a second personality that is so bad that his literal body will transform into a completely different person. Also, yes, I'm part of the crowd that thinks Doppio is the main personality, as in literal schizophrenia cases, usually the second personality knows of its existence and knows about the main person's. The other main person doesn't actually know the second one does. So in this case, accurately speaking, Doppio is the main personality here. And that's all you need to really know before talking about King Crimson, as more or less the entire basis of the idea of King Crimson is this kind of ruler or boss that's just kind of going crazy, that has this insane court and has these ideas of trying to overcome fate or trying to be fate itself, and just overall just being a really
fate itself
king kind of aesthetic that works incredibly well. But the other 2 references are kind of fun. Of course, the faces of the album cover literally inspired
oh my god
King Crimson's
that away from me
looking face, and most likely Moonchild is something that inspired Trish's character. That one is
was his art
was original, and I don't see a lot of people talking about that one, but it's something I would like to point out. A long reference sheet out of the way, let's finally talk about King Crimson itself.
Yeah, talk to me.
So off the bat, I'm going to explain this now. How does its ability work? As this is something a lot of people still find very confusing. So I'm going to break it down very, very simple. And if you need to figure it out again, if you don't get it the first time, just replay this part, because after a while you should get it, I hope. King Crimson has 2 abilities, his time erasure and Epitaph. Epitaph has the ability to see 10 seconds into the future. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Time erasure has the ability to skip 10 seconds into the future, meaning that if there was any actions during the actual 10 seconds, only their effects are left over, not their actions, as they have been skipped over, meaning that a lot of people have their perception of time erased. So more or less the idea that erasing something from the timeline is kind of wrong here is it's more or less a lot of people's perception that is being erased, not the actual time stream.
Perception.
That would lead to problems with the time-space continuum. I'm not going to get into that, but more or less that's what happens. It's
my brain's going to be fried if he explained that.
Those 10 seconds, that's leaving a lot of effects behind, not the actions. Mind you, it is still a time manipulation feat as time is being skipped over, not erased. There are a few bonuses.
10 seconds is all fighter needs.
Diavolo can move within this time skipping and cannot be hurt during time skipping. So pretty powerful ability. By now, I hope you're kind of figuring out how powerful this ability truly is, as King
Is there watch time now?
Monstrously powerful.
I'm gonna add it.
The ability to see a mere 10 seconds into the future and realizing, hey, there's a bad outcome that I don't want. Boom, skips over it, so it never technically happened, but the effects are still left around, is extremely powerful and is probably by far one of the most powerful abilities in all of Jojo. To the point where a lot of people still think that Diavolo is one of the strongest villains in the entire franchise, and I'm meaning that very seriously. Diavolo technically is like one really good AP feat away from being one of the strongest, to the point where he could probably defeat Dio, Jotaro, and Pucci with Made in Heaven. Not even joking there.
Wow.
And on the topic of scaling King Crimson,
and we know about that Made in Heaven.
Before Part 5, Jean-Pierre Polnareff would go to Europe trying to figure out why there was such a rampant drug problem. Apparently, Diavolo was this problem, which would lead into an encounter between the two, which led to Diavolo completely destroying Polnareff. While I have stated this previously in other videos where this would just lead to a really crazy speed feat for Diavolo, but there is something here that I haven't mentioned previously.
Oh my god, look at his torso.
Is an extremely experienced stand user. Look at Stardust Crusaders for an example. While yes, Polnareff is treated like a joke character for a majority of the time, there is a lot of highlight moments with him that show that he is extremely powerful. The fight against Hangman and Vanilla Ice should be great examples here to show you. He outsmarts his opponents and even outlasts them, which is extremely consistent with Polnareff, funny enough, because eventually he would be taken over by Anubis.
It'll stay ball stream. All right, let's see if we man over reward again. Okay.
Extreme threat. This is coming from the guy that has a stand that can reach massively faster than light speeds, with city to mountain level AP. Polnareff is no joke and is an extremely powerful character. It's even alluded to in Part 5 that after Part 3, Jotaro and Polnareff would go on adventures together, meaning that Polnareff probably got stronger and got more stand experience over this time span, and then would get absolutely crushed and be disabled by King Crimson and Diavolo on a low ball, implying the fact that he at least has massively faster than light speeds. Or you could say at least bare minimum, like this is the lowest I would go, faster than light speeds. And like I said previously, he's like one good AP feat away from actually being an extremely powerful top tier in the universe. He is already, but like he's one.
I haven't added it, okay?
Top. Now, remember, he actually does make up for this lack of AP with other feats. The most wild one is being able to at least survive with a large amount of iron out of his system fighting Risotto. There's only a certain amount of iron in the bloodstream, and the fact that Diavolo / Doppio here had so much he was able to make a large amount of iron weapons and survive being attacked with them by Risotto, making this a really good durability feat. And shortly after this, he would use his intelligence and his nearby surroundings and use time skip for Aerosmith to kill Risotto, making that a really good intelligence feat for him, which is really consistent with his character. As shortly after this, in the Requiem Quietly Plays, he would use the confusion of Silver Chariot Requiem to get closer to the Requiem arrow. While he did end up losing the arrow, the fact that he was able to pull off confusing the group for so long is still really good on his part, slowly biding his time trying to get closer to the arrow. The only thing holding him back was, well, Silver Chariot Requiem. As in an earlier encounter with Bucciolati, literally in his introduction, he probably could have taken out the entire team. The only thing holding him back was he didn't want anybody to see his face. If previous intelligent feats and speed feats are to be taken in mind here, he probably could have done it. It's not him just hyping himself up thinking that he's the greatest in the world. He has the stats, the time skip, and the epitaph to do this. I would argue out of the entire cast of stand users within Jojo, King Crimson could probably defeat a majority of them hands down. The only ones beating him would be the ones with crazy ass hacks from looking at Wonder.
One of you? Yep, that's my favorite so far.
Dio, meaning that the line of error
he's crazy, bro.
Extremely small.
Oh my god.
So small, in fact, that you can probably count them all on your hands. So if you ever were to encounter Dio Valo,
like the way he just explained to one of you, bro,
meeting him for whatever reason,
crazy.
You're probably gonna die, hands down. Even a regular stand user probably doesn't even
like you can't touch him
against this guy. Time skip and precog are just that broken, and it possibly gets even worse if you know the more deeper Jojo stand lore. You see, Dio Valo is technically based on Billy McGillen, or at least his condition. He is a man with multiple personalities, and to cut the story
I never
short,
heard of him.
At one point, all of his multiple personalities merged
24
into
face
one
of Billy
perfect
Milligan
personality, I guess, is the best way I can quote it, making this kind of super character that was radically different from the main one for some time with Billy. And thanks to part 8 Jojoing, we know that if a person were to go through a crazy resolve change or a crazy life circumstance thing happening with them, a stand evolution or a stand change can occur where
me personally, Jordan,
of course,
me personally, if I came up against Dio Valo, I just handle it.
Part 8 that we know that
Alright,
stands, or maybe even a change in power that
alright, Chief.
here would be Jotaro Kujo with Time Stop being in an extremely pressured situation, losing his loved ones and his, friend group. A stand evolution or a stand change in power can occur. An example of the acts would be, Echo's Act 1 through 3 or Tuss Act 1 through 4. So in this example, if Doppia were to become self-aware of Dio Valo and maybe some type of multiple personality fusion were to occur, this could possibly lead into a completely different or even a
Tuss is such an OP fucking stand.
Note, I would like to add upon all
I wonder if he got video on him.
Fan speculation on how certain things work in this universe. Even if this doesn't occur, King Crimson by himself is still extremely powerful, like I've said previously. I would probably even say he's probably one of the more intelligent villains in the series, and paired up with a stand that can have the ability to see the incoming fate and able to skip over it is extremely good and powerful. That alone would put him in this category of the most terrifying stands. Also, he looks creepy as fuck, if I forgot to mention that. Like, dude, please stop smiling. Well, that's going to be the end of the video.
Look like a demon. Oh, it's already over?
Stay hydrated. See you in the next
Damn, bro, I feel like 12 minutes went by fast as hell. That'd be video, bro. That'd be video by Meta.